Have you ever met someone who seemed perfectly calm? Almost too calm. No anger, no drama, no obvious flaws. They always smile, always say the right things, always act in control. And yet, something about them feels off, like a storm quietly brewing beneath a clear sky. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, believed that the most dangerous trait in a person isn't rage or cruelty or even narcissism. It's denial. Not the kind where someone forgets they left the oven on, the kind where someone has no idea what's truly inside them because they've buried it so deep they've fooled even themselves. According to Jung, we all carry a hidden side within us, a part we reject, deny, or never want to admit exists. He called it the shadow. And here's the unsettling truth. The people who are most unaware of their own shadow are often the ones capable of the most harm. Not because they want to hurt others, but because they don't even realize what they're capable of. What happens when someone's true emotions, anger, envy, pride, aren't expressed but locked away? Where do they go? And what happens when that pressure builds? In this video, we're diving into Jung's theory of the shadow, how it forms, how it hides, and most importantly, how to recognize the subtle, silent signs of someone who might be more dangerous than they appear. Stay alert, because the real danger is often the one you don't see coming. Imagine going through life wearing a carefully crafted mask, a version of yourself that fits in, pleases others, and hides anything that might seem unacceptable. Carl Jung called this mask the persona, the face we show the world. It's shaped by culture, family, school, and social expectations. From a young age, we learn what parts of us are acceptable and what parts are not. So what happens to the parts we hide? They don't disappear. They don't go away. They get pushed into what Jung called the shadow, the dark unconscious part of our psyche. This shadow is made up of all the traits, desires, and feelings we reject in ourselves. Anger, selfishness, fear, ambition, lust, pride, anything we've been taught is bad, we banish it to the back of our mind. As children, we might be told not to be too loud, too emotional, too demanding. So we learn to suppress those traits. We become the good kid, the quiet one, the peacemaker. But those rejected traits still exist. They don't die, they just slip beneath the surface, hidden, but still active. This is where it gets dangerous, because the shadow doesn't just sit quietly, it leaks out in our behavior, in our choices, in our relationships. We might think we're being kind and selfless, but deep down, resentment starts to build. We might act calm on the outside, but feel intense rage we can't explain. We might judge others harshly for the very traits we've disowned in ourselves. Jung believed that until we confront and integrate our shadow, it controls us from the background. Like a puppet master we can't see. And the scariest part? The people who are most convinced they have nothing dark inside are often the ones most controlled by it, because the shadow doesn't need our permission. It just needs our denial. And that's when things start to unravel. When we refuse to acknowledge what's hiding in our shadow, we don't erase it, we just give it more power. This is where repression begins. Repression is like locking uncomfortable thoughts or feelings in a basement and throwing away the key. We convince ourselves, I'm not angry, I'm not jealous, I'm not capable of that. But the truth doesn't disappear. It festers, and eventually it finds a way out through projection. Projection is one of the most common ways the shadow reveals itself. It's when we see in others what we can't accept in ourselves. A person who denies their own selfishness might constantly accuse others of being greedy, Someone who represses their own anger might call others too emotional or unstable, and someone who refuses to admit they feel envy might secretly sabotage the people they admire. Carl Jung warned us, what is not made conscious will be lived out as fate. In other words, if we don't face our inner darkness, we end up living it, unknowingly, uncontrollably, and often destructively. This is why repressed people can be so dangerous. They often appear gentle, agreeable, even spiritual. But their calmness is not peace, it's control. They've spent years building walls around their emotions. And when those walls crack, it's not a leak, it's a flood. You might see it in sudden emotional outbursts that seem to come from nowhere, or in subtle manipulation wrapped in kindness, or in people who always play the victim while quietly making others feel guilty or small. They don't intend to harm, but because they don't see their own darkness, they can't control it, and what's unconscious in them can still hurt you. The scariest danger isn't the person who knows they're angry. It's the person who insists they're never angry at all. So how do you protect yourself from someone who doesn't even know they're dangerous? The answer lies in awareness, yours, not theirs. While you can't change another person's inner world, you can learn to recognize the signs of a repressed shadow. These people often don't look threatening on the surface. In fact, they may seem emotionally balanced, overly polite, or even morally superior. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice the cracks. One of the clearest signs is overly judgmental behavior. People who constantly criticize others for things like being too selfish, too emotional, or too assertive are often projecting their own disowned traits. Their intolerance is not wisdom, it's avoidance. Then there's an over-controlled behavior. They seem perfectly calm, never raise their voice, never admit to being upset, but behind that calm is tension, a kind of emotional rigidity that feels unnatural. These people aren't calm, they're restrained. And when something finally pushes them too far, they explode in ways that shock everyone. You might also see passive aggressiveness. Instead of expressing anger directly, they use sarcasm, guilt-tripping, or backhanded compliments. Their hostility is hidden beneath niceties, but it's there, sharp and unresolved. Another major red flag is denial of personal flaws. They can admit to small mistakes, but never to deeper character issues. If confronted, they'll deflect, blame others, or claim to be misunderstood. They often say things like, "I'm just a good person who cares too much," while leaving a trail of emotional damage behind them. And finally, there are the sudden emotional outbursts. These come seemingly out of nowhere, an overreaction to a minor inconvenience, a breakdown during a simple disagreement. These outbursts aren't random, they're the result of years of suppressed emotions finally boiling over. So what can you do? First, trust your instincts. If someone feels off despite acting nice, don't dismiss that feeling. Your intuition is often picking up on emotional inconsistencies their persona is trying to hide. Second, set clear boundaries. Repressed shadow personalities often test limits in subtle ways. Emotional manipulation, guilt, control masked as concern. Boundaries disrupt that dynamic and reveal how they handle confrontation. Third, don't take the bait. These individuals might provoke reactions in others while playing innocent themselves. Stay grounded, don't mirror their denial or get pulled into their emotional confusion. And most importantly, turn the mirror on yourself. Carl Jung said, Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. When you begin to see and accept your own shadow, your flaws, your impulses, your hidden fears, you become stronger, not colder, not crueler, just clearer. You can navigate the world with sharper eyes, deeper empathy, and stronger protection. Because the greatest danger isn't in seeing darkness in others, it's in pretending it doesn't exist at all.